We also have like major problems in Idaho, in the West, because if you look at a map, and people out east just don't realize this, but if you look at a map, east of the Colorado Rockies, the federal government controls 51% of the land mass. And in Idaho, it's 61%. And then they're controlling 72% of the subsurface mineral rights.
Wow.
And so it's making it so like Idaho can't even pay its own bills. Like we're beholden to the federal government to pay our bills because they're controlling all our land and our resources. And so that battle has to be fought, and I plan on fighting
How
that.
did the feds get control of the land?
So it's a long, long story, but this is like the whole battle that my family was in, you know, that basically culminated in 2014 because the states were enabled into the union, and all the land and all the resources were supposed to then go to the state and the jurisdiction of that state. But through this environmentalist movement, and because the area is so arid, people didn't go live on it. They couldn't live on it. And the federal government came in later and claimed it. And now they're claiming it as their own. They're saying it's in trust, and that they never released it or disposed of it is the right word. And so there's this major battle with like families like my family, and my father in particular, where they're trying to defend their rights. My family's been there for now almost 150 years. And the federal government comes in and says, well, we're taking it from you. Well, there's this, and that's happening all over the West. And
well,
so,
I mean, but you got to trust the government, right? They're here to help.
Sure. Yeah. They're here to help, and they're doing it for, you know, the right reason, I'm sure, you know.
What was it? The tortoise?
Yeah. Desert tortoise. But it
well, you got to protect the tortoise. I mean,
well,
come on.
yeah. I mean,
what is your
protecting
family for all? Tortoise.
That's right. Yeah. I mean,
that's probably what
my
they
family
think,
doesn't
right?
need to make a living. They can move to the city and do whatever they're going to do there, even though we've been there for 150 years.
Have you considered owning nothing and being happy?
I have a hard time considering that. I just can't see how it'll work.
There's some comfy pods out there, though, and, you know, video games, VR, they're pretty cool.
Maybe
Yeah.
the tortoise.
How about this?
Reality.
How about some bug protein?
Virtual
Here's a
reality.
compromise. We'll take your whole family. We'll put them in pods. We'll give them VR headsets that simulate working on a ranch out in Idaho.
And all the bugs you could eat. Non-stop bugs.
Yeah, exoskeletons, right? That are bad for us. I don't know.
Yeah, chitin.
You know.
Yeah, indigestible
don't know.
bug shells.
So the feds came in and were like, by the way, we've owned this the whole time and you didn't know, kind of thing? Or what?
Did they offer
Was it like-
compensation?
No, not at all.
Wow.
Not at all. So yeah, they did do that, which is an absolute lie. They tried to make the people of this country believe that has always been in federal hands and that it wasn't disposed of to the state and to the people, and it's just a flat lie. Well, really what it was is the West is just arid. Like you can't have farms and you can't grow things in much of the West. And so people didn't settle there. And they just came in and said, look at all this land that no one's living on, no one's claimed. We're going to take it. But the problem is in the West, you don't claim the land. You claim like the grazing rights. Like my dad owns the grazing rights, the logging rights, the mining, the mineral rights. Right. And those were like deeded rights with the states. And so here the feds come in and say, well, we're taking the real estate, and therefore anything else that has rights on it, we own, we control. And it's this huge messed up legal battle that's going on, because my dad has grazing rights. He has 11 of them deeded with the state of Nevada. And then the federal government comes along and says, well, we own the land. So you can't graze here. And he's like, wait a minute.
Now that sounds bunk, because we've been dealing with this when we were moving out to West Virginia. Everybody warns you you're only buying surface rights. And then I'm like, what does that mean? And that means that if somebody owns the mineral rights, they can come onto your property in a way that's reasonable and start digging. And then I'm like, what am I buying then? Like, if I'm going to build something here, I can't have you come on with some machinery and start digging in my ground.
Yeah, so they separated that. This was all part of this. They made it so that you can separate the real estate, the land, with the mineral rights. Right. And that wasn't always the case. Remember the Beverly Hillbillies, where they bought this land and they were digging, and this oil comes out. Next thing you know, they're millionaires and they moved to Beverly Hills.
Yeah.
Well, that's the way it used to be. Like, if you own the land, you also own the resources underneath it or above it.
Yep. But now big corporations will buy the land, buy the mineral rights, sell the surface to you, and then in the event they actually find something, show up one day and be like, out of the way.
Yep.
Now, to our benefit, I suppose, there's not really a whole lot going on in West Virginia in terms of minerals. So unless they discover something they didn't know about before, some new mineral.
Yeah, they're
So
using
is all the coal gone then? Because I thought West Virginia was all about coal.
I think that's in the mountains, though.
Okay.
Like mountaintop and stuff like that.
Right.
I don't know for sure. What I do know is that when we were looking at land, we went over this and they were like, you don't have mineral rights, but to be honest, they've already done a sweep. Here's the report. There's nothing here. It's like mud and rock, like nothing worth anything.
But there's been a new breakthrough in underground scanning with, I think, lasers, and there's underground
LiDAR?
mapping.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it might not be LiDAR, but a form of laser underground mapping. So they might start finding crazy minerals deeper than you thought. I don't know.
They could discover something new, is what people don't realize. We may find out eventually that there's something, look, we think we know everything. We think, not literally, but we think we know. And then one day it's like, oh, hey, wait a minute. We need this kind of mineral. And it's not just this, graphene, for instance. We'll use that as an example.
Yeah, what if they just start wanting to mine the carbon? They're like, dirt itself is a mineral we can mine.
Not that. What if they discover that there are certain carbon deposits that are more, that can easily be converted into graphene for some reason? And now all of a sudden they call it something like graph carbon deposits. Mm-hmm. And they say, well, we didn't realize this 10 years ago when we thought your property was worthless, but now, fortunately, we have the mineral rights to your property and we found there's graph carbon deposits. So we're coming on in, baby.
It's yours. And they can take up to, at least in the West, Nevada, and they can take up to 49% of your surface rights to mine or to extract whatever subsurface minerals.
But with you guys, it was just about a tortoise?
Well, yeah. So we're in
what?
So we're like in the desert. Like if there's a desert in this, maybe the Sahara Desert is a little bit drier, but that's about it. I mean, we're talking about the Mojave Desert. Like no one wanted to live there. In fact, there was a group of people that came.
What are they grazing on? What are the cattle grazing on?
Just there's shrubs. There's there, and certain times of the year it'll rain and there will be grass. They have to struggle from and then we have these waters because they're springs, so we have waters all around where they're just little springs, but we capture the water, so they have water troughs and they don't have to travel so far. But that area was like 150 years ago, no one wanted it. The people that came in before my family, they went back and reported to Brigham Young in Salt Lake and said that the place was uninhabitable, right? And then we went in there a few years later and started, making a life out of it and a living out of it. And then now, for whatever reason, well, we know why, but now people want it. And
was there like uranium or something under there?
Well, yeah, I was going to show you this. I don't know if you, but the real reason is quite obvious of what they want. And when you look at a map of the federal control, I'll just show you for the fun of it, right? You all right with that?
Oh, is it
definitely
minerals of some sort? Lithium?
Well, so this right here that's a map of the red is federal controlled land.
Yeah.
So you can see the West is like
they own Nevada.
Yeah, they 89%. But then
what do they want with the land?
Well, this is the whole point. So let's look at these are the mercury and gold mines.
Yeah, here we go.
It's the same map.
Wow.
Right.
And like here's a uranium.
Exactly.
Totally.
It's the same map.
Called it.
And that's what they want. They're controlling the natural resources, and they want to make people think that they're doing it to preserve it.
Why don't they just come up to you guys and be like, "Here's $10 million. Have a nice day."
Because they didn't think they had to. They thought that they could come in and just take it. Because they've done it to hundreds and hundreds of other ranchers and loggers and miners and everything else.
I mean, look, they just print the money anyway. They should just walk up and be like, "Here's $10 million.
Yeah.
Carry on."
But if they do it to us, then they have to do it to everybody else. And they found a better way. They just run you out.
Apparently not now. I mean, at the very least, they should have. They haven't come to you since then and been like, "Okay, how much do you want?"
Actually, they tried that with my dad, but the Constitution, which I know they don't follow it, and why do they care? But they actually did. They tried to get the county to buy my dad's rights, and my dad refused. He didn't want to sell them.
Right.
And so, and I'll say this though,
But they can't have him offered a good enough amount.
No,
right?
they offered him $75,000.
Right.
So, which is the price of a pickup right now. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, your family's history, everything, your legacy, your farm, it's gone. Here's $75K. It's like,
but it was in the attitude. Well, we're going to take it anyway. So here, this is an easy way out for you. And my dad was like, absolutely no. So,
what if they came and said $2 million? Would you guys pack up?
No. So no way. My dad has been offered because he has a lot of water rights, like actual coming down the river too, and private property there. And so he's been offered a decent amount of, millions of dollars, and he's just not, he doesn't want to sell. I mean, for whatever reason, he has his reasons, he's not going to sell.
Has he considered taking like hundreds of thousands of balloons and putting them in his chimney and then flying the house away when they try to take your property? I saw a story about that once.
It's crazy. It's crazy what's going on.
What happened? What was the resolution? I heard that the ranch, like the story goes, you guys were like, no, we're not giving it. They came on the property. There was a shootout. And then
there wasn't a shootout, but what happened, this was during Obama, 2014, and he thought he had enough political power and he had basically an internal bureaucratic army, and he sent them down upon my family. It was the FBI, which we didn't know that at first, but FBI, Bureau of Land Management, U.S. Forest Service.
That's BLM.
Yeah.
The other BLM.
Bureau of Land
Before it was cool.
And they came down with a 213 federal armed, basically army, and locked the ranch down. They began to kill the cattle from helicopters, burying them in mass graves, destroy the water infrastructure, destroy the corrals, and meanwhile they were threatening that this would be another Waco or Ruby Ridge if we resisted. Yeah. So it took us a while to gain enough courage to start to confront them and stand up to them, and people started coming.
And then they killed your animals.
Yeah, they killed like 60 head and buried them in mass graves.
How?
Yeah.
With a helicopter?
Shooting them with helicopters, yeah.
How did they destroy
this
the
all
water?
sounds like explicitly illegal. Like they're committing crimes.
Yeah, but
that's the definition of government.
Yeah, but but they also claimed, they were saying we were trespassing.
But I don't think if someone's cow wandered on my property, I can't kill it.
No. Yeah, the federal government does what they want to do.
Yeah. All right.
They do what they want to do.
If it was a bull, maybe, and went on my land and
was destroying something.
Yeah,
or something
but if there's a cow, a couple of cow walking by, I think it's no one would find it reasonable that you start mowing them down from a helicopter.
Yeah,
They'd be like, "Yo, dude, what are you doing?"
Especially if they're branded.
I agree.
No, look, right now we got the story with Lauren Boebert, where the Democrats accused her of killing a dog. And then, you read for 10 seconds into the story, and you're like, oh, the dog broke onto her property and was attacking her goats. Then you read it was actually her other neighbor who killed the dog because the dog had actually attacked a bunch of animals. And Lauren's like, I had nothing to do with this.
Talk about defamation, right?
Yeah, seriously. But in that capacity, it's like, you've got something attacking your animals. You protect your property, you protect your animals.
Absolutely. But that's what was going.
No, this is them just killing a bunch of cows.
They were just killing them, burying them in mass graves, causing mayhem, literally. And then we started. So the interesting thing is that they set up these areas that they called First Amendment areas. They were like miles away from the ranch, and they were like these construction mesh, the orange construction mesh.
Yeah. Freedom cages.
Yeah, and they said that if you're going to protest or demonstrate or anything, our actions, you have to do it in there. That's your First Amendment area. So, of course, we didn't do that. So they started sicking dogs on us and tasing us and throwing us to the ground and doing all this stuff. Well, people were filming it, and they started sending it all over the country. And next thing you know, we got hundreds and then thousands of people coming.
You know what this story reminds me of? Avatar. You guys know that movie? Yeah, where the noble... true landowners are minding their own business on their big tree, and the evil government comes in to steal all those minerals beneath that tree, just killing everybody.
That's right.
Yeah. That's the story here. The only thing is it doesn't really work towards their Hollywood narrative because it's a bunch of white ranchers, I guess, and not Native Americans.
Yeah, that's why we weren't so popular, right? Because we were just there and evidently...
colonizers.
Yeah. Well, and I do say this all the time, I know when I was born there was no Native Americans other than other ranchers. There was other ranchers that were actually Native Americans that ranched in there, and they were pushed out and driven out just like
by the feds.
The rest of us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, that's another story about the colonial patriarchy government kicking out, the honest worker, right?
That's right. Yeah.
It's not a racist system. It's just hungry for money and resources.
Power. And there's this like unholy alliance between those who want to control the resources, make money and all of that, build their bureaucracies, all that power stuff that we know about, and these globalist environmentalists, the green religion. And they've like locked arms in basically coming and trying to control and drive mankind off the land.
That's very telling, and I think that correlates with what you're saying about going after saying it's for the tortoise.
Yeah, that's exactly. That's why. So you've got, the global environmentalists that are like saying we got to save the tortoise, which it's all based upon lies, and then you have those who want to control the resources, the subsurface mineral rights and the land and so forth, saying like, well, come with us and we'll stop people from using this, and then they take it for themselves, and that's what's been happening all over the West.
Is it like a tortoise haven or something? You guys got a lot of them?
Well, I mean, there's a decent amount of desert tortoise down there, but the thing of it is the true studies actually showed that when there's cattle there was more desert tortoise, because their main staple was manure. Right. They actually ate the
turtles ate the whole.
Oh yeah, they dig through it.
Yeah, the cow pies, they'd go in it and they would dig it and they would thrive off of it. So when you had more cattle, you had more desert tortoise, but they didn't care about that. They didn't care about that.
I was going to say that because it seems to me that cattle coming in, it's going to expand the ecosystem. That the manure is going to result in more growth. It's going to deposit, minerals or whatever, and then just result in a more robust ecosystem, albeit still small and desert-like. But
Tim, I just want to talk about this fact here. The U.S. government literally tested 1,032 nuclear weapons on American soil. This is a government that does not care about any kind of natural environment or anything. The U.S. military-industrial complex, the U.S. war machine, is one of the biggest polluters by definition, right. and of course that's just being fed and pushed around.
In Nevada, by the way.
But why did they test those nuclear weapons? To protect the tortoise.
Right.
Because they knew that Vladimir Putin and Khrushchev and Lenin and all those guys going way back, what they were really after, the Soviets, killing turtles.
They needed to nuke the tortoise to save the tortoise. It's pretty simple.
Gotta blow them up.
Yeah. The federal,
too many of them.
In my opinion, the federal government owns 28% of all land in the United States. That is 28% too much, in my own personal opinion. And those free speech zones are absolutely absurd. And I think they were ruled unconstitutional. They were originally started by George W. Bush when he was trying to stop protest against his regime and his larger anti-war protests that, of course, people were protesting against. And they just were like, well, you can't really protest, but you can in our little regulated areas where, of course, you don't have any speech at all. You're just cattle yourself, which is absolutely crazy.
Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. But if you want to check out the full show live, tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And if you want more special access content, head over to timcast.com and become a member. Your membership helps sustain this company, keep our journalists employed, makes this show happen, and you will get access to exclusive members-only segments of the Timcast IRL podcast, and there's a massive library to check out. So again, go to timcast.com or tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., and we'll see you all there.